another gun build in Call of Duty Vanguard. Like I promised from last video, I want to be bringing you guys the sniper build to the G-43 or the Gewehr uh, marksman rifle. As I went over in the last video, it is the most fastest in mobility or like handling for the actual marksman rifles and the fastest fire rate or the highest fire rate. And what this build is going to be going over is giving the gun way more firepower and way more accuracy to turn it to more or less a sniper rifle. But the gun doesn't hit hard enough to make a one-shot kill sniper rifle, so it's just going to be a really accurate marksman rifle, much like the VT or SVT 40 marksman rifle. So it's going to essentially be like that, but it can shoot a little bit faster. So yeah, so let's go ahead and jump right on into the attachments. Let's go ahead and start off with the barrel. And this is the second from the top. It's a very early on attachment that you can use, and it is the ZP 770mm precision. It's essentially the sniper barrel, and it gives you a large amount of accuracy towards your gun and controllable, or yeah, highly accurate and controllable. So it makes it to where that you have 45 plus percent towards your horizontal recoil control, which is massive. That's really good. That makes it to where that you don't have like really any kind of side-to-side balance at all. And you also get plus 10% towards your vertical recoil control, which is a really good boost. Idle sway control, that's 75% less, I guess. So that makes it to where that when you're aiming down sight, your sight doesn't really sway at all. So you don't need to hold your breath when you're firing, which is really, really good. Flinch resistance is up by 50%, which is massive for sniper rifles because every time an enemy shoots you, it makes your gun go up, makes you flinch. That makes it to where that your shot may be thrown off when you're trying to fire at them. That makes it to where it's not as likely to happen. And hip fire accuracy is up by 1.7%, but you don't need to worry about that since it's a marksman rifle, especially one that's built for long range. Hip fire accuracy is already god awful, so don't really think that's going to be really something that you should worry about. After that, the muzzle. I went with the F8 stabilizer. It's also a pretty early on attachment that you can unlock. It gives you plus 2 accuracy to make it to where it's really pinpoint accurate. This gun is already really good. So like 9 out of 10, your bullets are going to land exactly where you're aiming. But it gives you damage range, which I'm going for the longest range for the gun. I don't think no other attachment in this category gives you damage range. So it's really the best attachment to use for accuracy and longer range uh, damage dealing. So it gives you another horizontal recoil control by 7.1%. No percentage or increase towards the vertical, but you don't need to worry about that because it's already been bumped up by so much. But it does increase your effective damage range by 9.1%, which is pretty solid. Cons giving it to where you have less sprint to fire speed, which is something, but you don't need to really worry about that since you are going to be hanging back more in the back of the map or longer range shooting. You don't really need to worry about sprint to fire speed because you're not going to be aggressive with this kind of build. And with that, also hip fire accuracy is reduced even more. That's also going to be by 2.8%. Sprint to fire time is reduced by 4.1%. Yeah, so it's not really going to be here for mobility. This gun's not supposed to be very fast. It's supposed to be more on the heavier side, but insanely pinpoint accurate. After that, the underbarrel. We went with the M1930 strife angled grip here. It's the very first one you unlock, so most of these attachments you're going to get out of this build are going to be very early on, and that's actually really solid for guys that are trying to get these builds right off the bat. But it gives you another plus 2 accuracy. This is what I mean, like it's really pinpoint accurate. I don't think you are going to really be missing any kind of rounds at all. When you shoot at the head, you're going to land on the head. But plus 1 aiming stability, that's even way less uh, sway to your gun or idle sway, even though it's not stated. Sprint to fire time is reduced by another 4.1%. Horizontal recoil control is increased by 7.1%, which is a pretty good uh, benefit towards that, or like perk. So after that, the aim walking steadiness, that's pretty much like the bounce when you're moving like left and right with your gun. Uh, when you're aiming and walking with it, it doesn't bounce as much when you're moving around with it. So that's really good for strafing if someone's trying to snipe at you while you're trying to snipe back at them. You can probably get off more accurate shots while trying to dodge your bullets. So that's actually pretty solid. Cons being, like I said, sprint to fire speed is going to make it to where you're a lot slower. You're not going to be worrying about that a whole lot. And the stock, this is +2 initial accuracy and recoil control, +1 aim down sight speed, so it can get you a little bit faster in aim down sight speed, and +1 recoil recovery. Recoil recovery, like I said in my last video, is the recenter time with your scope. So it reaches centers faster in the center of your screen or wherever your initial shot was. So you're able to lay off more shots and keep a better view of your target while you're firing at them. So it's pretty solid. I think that might be the best stock that I have right now for the gun. You can also go with the ZP padded. This makes it to where that you have way more accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. So while you're firing off rounds, you get more accuracy and recoil as you go, or accuracy and recoil control as you go, and +1 flinch resistance. So you're pretty much not going to be flinching at all. Yeah, so it gives you another like +10%. So that's 60% less flinch right there. So if you guys want to run that, you can. It does make it to where that your initial accuracy and recoil for your initial shot is not as accurate, and your aiming stability is off. But you do have other attachments to counteract those downsides. So it's really up to you guys between each one. I'm running the Fritzebert reinforced stock. I'm not sure how I'm even supposed to pronounce that, so that's what I got. So that's that stock I'm going to be using. It's the second from the top there, so another really early on unlocked attachment. After that, this is Proficiency. Now I went with tight grip like in my last build. It makes it to where that my accuracy and recoil during sustained fire is increased, so it makes it to where my overall recoil control both in uh, horizontal and vertical recoil is reduced a ton, so it makes it to where it's pretty much still pinpoint accurate, but you don't need to really worry about that when it is a semi-automatic rifle. Like, it doesn't really have a bunch of recoil to it anyway, just for the nature of it. But yeah, I run that on there. I can't bring up the stats while I'm over to Proficiency, so I can't show you how much it increases, but that's a thing. So kits, I did go with Deep Breath. You don't need to run this because, like I said, your idle sway isn't really a thing anymore when it comes to like the actual barrel and the muzzle brake. So I did run this on here. It does make it to where you're technically more accurate if you hold your breath, but you don't need to run it. Uh, but if you don't want to run that on there, I would probably just run something else like fully loaded or Defender. I don't have Defender unlocked just yet, but makes it to where when you're mounted on objects, you just have a lot more recoil control, so you can mount up on there. But I would also run fully loaded so you can get actually 4 more magazines out of your gun. And after that, we go into Polymer Grip. I think, no, we haven't done that just yet. But +2 flinch resistance, make it to where that flinch resistance is +40%. So that brings you up to 100% flinch resistance for your gun if you run the ZP padded, so you won't flinch at all. So right now you're at like 90% less flinch, so that's actually really solid to have. So I definitely recommend running Polymer Grip. It's obviously the best one to run. Now, you can also have other ones that gives you aim down sight speed and stuff, but this is what you would want when you're shooting a long range rifle. Because one shot that will make you flinch and you'll miss that shot, that's another shot that you are missing shooting at your target with a gun that already shoots slower than most assault rifles and SMGs and anything like that. So flinch is a really, really important part to these kind of builds, especially towards the actual legitimate sniper rifles. But yeah, so I'll definitely run that on there. It is the best grip to have. Yeah, nothing else helps you out in flinch, so that is the best one to have. Right after that, we want to go into the magazine, and this is the best one to use here. This is the point 3006 or 36 10-round magazine. Gives it to where you have a lot larger caliber round. It gives it the ability to kill someone in one less shot. I believe it's down to like 3 or 2 shots, which is actually really solid for a marksman rifle that shoots this fast. But it does come with a bunch of downsides, but they really don't do anything anymore since we have so many attachments helping it out. Like most of these are pretty much negligible. But yeah, so for the pros, gives you +2 bullet velocity and range and like damage range, which is amazing. This is actually supposed to be meant for a sniping. +1 bullet penetration. That's just more damage coming out of your bullet when it goes through the wall and hits a target, and +1 damage because it's a lot larger round, does a lot more damage to a person. Cons being supposed to be a big one, but it doesn't really do anything since we have so many attachments stacking on top of this. But it's -5 recoil control and accuracy. It does reduce it by 25% on both ends for recoil, but that doesn't really matter. We have increased it so many times that it actually goes above those downsides, so don't worry about that. Hip fire accuracy is highly reduced by -37.6%, which makes it to where your hip fire accuracy is god awful, so don't ever use that unless you are like point blank on someone. And down sight speed is reduced by 4.3%, and movement speed is reduced by 2.1%. And fire rate is also reduced by 33.3%. So it does make it to where your gun's a lot slower at firing. So this is what I mean. It is built for more of a hard-hitting sniper rifle kind of build. So you will be shooting slower, but it doesn't really have that bad of a fire rate decrease to it. It's still fairly fast, so it still feels good when you're firing it. Now the ammo types, now this is really up to you. I would go with either like two different options here. I would be running hollow point to increase limb damage. It pretty much gives you your like multiplier towards your chest or like the upper or lower torso, just the general like body shots damage, and increases it or spreads it towards the limbs, so like the arms and legs or extremities if you guys want to call them that. Uh, but yeah, so it just makes it to where that you do your flat amount of damage across the entire body. It doesn't give you any kind of multiplier like the Vital perk does, because this thing doesn't even have that, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think it even has the Vital. Yeah, so it doesn't have any of that, so it's not that kind of stat towards it. So it just makes it to where that you guys don't need to worry about taking another shot if you hit those limbs, because with every other gun in the game, unless you're running these rounds, it will make it to where that you do less damage when you're hitting the limbs. So usually it's going to require you to make or land another shot in order to kill them. So it just make it to where it's a lot more accurate. Now it will reduce your damage range by a lot, or not really by a whole lot. It's only by 7.7%, but that's not really good for sniping. You really want to make it to where you have the most amount of damage range. So I would probably either go with hollow point. It's a really solid one for sniping, especially getting out that most amount of like damage output. Or you can also go with light. Now this is a way higher level attachment. This is like the only one that's at really on the high end, uh, because it's at the actually bottom of the list for ammo types. But it gives you +3 bullet velocity, so it increases your bullet velocity by 30%, which is pretty dang good. Your bullets are going to be pretty much hit scan with all the other attachments increasing its velocity, and your effective damage range is increased by 8.3%, which is not stated, but that's should be assumed with bullet velocity. It comes with more damage range, so you get another 3 or 8.3%. So I would run that if you want to get your damage out as far as you possibly can get it, or if you don't really need to worry about that, or if you don't worry about that at all, hollow point is the rounds you'd want to be using. Now other things like armor piercing, that's for kill streaks. It's practically useless. on other people. Doesn't really do anything at all. Incendiary rounds, it just does extra damage over time. So I guess you can use that when you're about to get off, like one last shot and someone runs around the corner. That decreases your bullet velocity and damage range though, but so I wouldn't really use that. Because the hollow point ones just have way more stopping power kind of deal, or subsonic, you guys know that. It's essentially putting on a suppressor, but you don't have a suppressor on. It just makes it to where you're not visible on the enemy minimap, and FMJ rounds where you just do more damage through walls. So I guess that is plausible for sniping, but lightened or hollow point is the way to go. And aside from that, guys, that's really the only attachments you'll want to run. Now, optics, obviously, you want to go for longer range scopes. I was actually going to say, this is preferable, like whatever ones you guys would want to run, but obviously, if you want to do longer range sniping, anything that's like 2.5 and up in magnification is the way to go. Now, obviously, some of the higher zoom scopes, like the ZF41 7 times telescopic scope here, gives off optic glint that's visible to enemies. So it's the glint towards your sniper scope. I'm sure everyone knows what that looks like. So there is some other scopes though, like the one I'm using here at SBT40 PU scope, 3 to 6 times scope, and it gives you a 6 times magnification, so only loses out on 1 times magnification opposed to the other scope here. And that's still like, a massive amount of zoom to your gun. That's more than enough for you to be able to accurately see targets from a pretty good distance. It gives you +1 recoil control accuracy and a variable zoom telescopic scope. So you can zoom between the 3 times, which is more close range, and then the 6 times for longer range. So you have a little bit more flexibility between the two. And then cons being aim down sight speed. So it is technically a heavier scope to it, opposed to, the reflex sights or anything like that. That was definitely in World War II. But yeah, so it is going to be a little bit more heavy on your gun. That reduces your aim down sight speed by 4%. It's only by a frame, so but you don't need to worry about that since it is a sniping class. So I'll be running that scope on there. I'll also want to go over real quick the night vision sights. If you guys haven't already used this, the night vision sights are not night vision. They are thermal. They're thermal scopes. They will see through smoke. They act like the white hot kind of like thermal signature that you see in Modern Warfare. That's what this is, but it's just named night vision. It is not night vision. It is absolutely thermal. You can use it through smoke and stuff. So very broken. It's very misleading for its name, but it's really solid. It gives you +2 accuracy, +2 recoil control, 3 times magnification, and night vision, thermal vision. Cons being aim down sight speed. So if you want even more accuracy and stuff, that's technically what you can go with if you want to cheese people out more. But I would go with the higher zoom for longer range sniping. So that's really up to you. It's also very broken. A lot of people don't know that for the scope, but it's really solid. I've been using it recently now, and it's pretty dang good. But yeah, aside from that, guys, that's the sniper build, or the closest thing you want to get to a sniper for the Gewehr or the G-43 marksman rifle. I think this is the only other build I'm going to be making for this gun, and I'll be moving on to a different one. But yeah, if you guys like these gun builds, I'm sure like really most of the people that subscribe, that's why they came on to hear it, because I usually do gun builds. But if you guys like these, let me know down in the comments, or leave a like. If you guys want to, if you have any kind of idea on how to improve this class setup anymore or make it to where it's even better, let me know. Or if you recommend any other class build from any other gun, let me know. I will absolutely cover those guns in another video, and also give credit towards the first person who suggested it to me. So, aside from that, guys, I appreciate all y'all for supporting the channel, and I'll see y'all in the next one.